What's up, Metal Heights? Good to see you guys again. Do me a favor. Jump up your feet. Put your hands together. We're going to sing this out. There were walls between us. By the cross you came and broke them down. You broke them down. There were chains around us. By your grace we are no longer bound. No longer bound. You called me out of the grave. You called me into the light. You called my name and then my heart came alive. Your love is greater. Your love is stronger. Your love awakens, awakens, awakens me. Your love is greater. Your love is stronger. Your love awakens, awakens, awakens me. Feel the darkness shaking. All the dead are coming back to life. Come back to life. Hear the song awaken. All creation singing we're alive. 'Cause you're alive. You called me out of the grave. You called me into the light. You called my name and then my heart came alive. Yeah. Your love is greater. Your love is stronger. Your love awakens, awakens, awakens me. Your love is greater. Your love is stronger. Your love awakens, awakens. awakens me. And what a love we found, death can't hold us down. We shout it out, we're alive, 'cause you're alive. And what a love we found, death can't hold us down. We shout it out, we're alive, 'cause you're alive. What a love we found, death can't hold us down. We shout it out, we're alive, 'cause you're alive. This is amazing grace. This is unfailing love. That you would take my place, that you would bear my cross. You laid down your life, that I would be set free. Jesus, I sing for all that you've done for me. Yeah. Who brings our chaos back? Who brings our chaos back into order? Who makes the orphan a son and daughter? The King of glory, the King of glory, who rules the nations with truth and justice, shines like the sun in all of its brilliance. The King of glory, the King above all kings. Yeah, this is amazing grace. This is unfailing love. That you would take my place, that you would bear my cross. You laid down your life, that I would be set free. Jesus, I'll sing for all that you've done for me. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Worthy is the King who conquered the grave. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Worthy is the King who conquered the grave. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Worthy is the King who conquered the grave. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Worthy, worthy, worthy. Oh, this is amazing grace. This is unfailing love. That you would take my place, that you would bear my cross. You laid down your life, that I would be set free. Jesus, I sing for all that you've done for me. Yeah, all that you've done for me. Oh, yeah. Sovereign in the mountain air, sovereign on the ocean floor, with me in the calm, with me in the storm. Sovereign in my greatest joy, sovereign in my deepest cry, with me in the dark, with me at the dawn. In your everlasting arms, all the pieces of my life, from beginning to the end, I can trust you. In your never failing love, sovereign in the mountain air, sovereign on the ocean floor, with me in the calm, with me in the storm, sovereign in my greatest joy, sovereign in my deepest cry, with me in the dark, with me at the dawn. In your everlasting arms, all the pieces of my life, from beginning to the end, I can trust you. In your never failing love, you work everything for good. God, whatever comes my way, I will trust you. God, whatever comes my way, I will trust you. All my hopes, all I need, held in your hands. All my life, all I need, held in your hands. All my fears, all my dreams, held in your hands. All my hopes, all I need, held in your hands. All my life, all of me, held in your hands. All my fears, all my dreams, held in your hands. In your everlasting arms, all the pieces of my life, from beginning to the end, I can trust you. And in your never failing love, you work everything for good. God, whatever comes my way, I will trust you. God, whatever comes my way, I will trust you. God, whatever comes my way, I will trust you.
Man, you guys can have a seat. That is awesome job, Devin, team. Every week it blows my mind, the talent we have in this church and the heart. And I was sitting there kind of having a surreal moment right now of seeing Devin, just a flashback to when I was in my early 20s, teaching a 6th grade Sunday school class, and he was in my class. And there wasn't one moment where I'm like, one of these days I'm going to be a pastor of a church, and we're going to travel around that weekend, and you're going to lead worship, and I'm going to teach, and it's going to be amazing. I never thought that. But God knows his ways, and it's awesome, man. Getting to worship underneath your leadership, Devin, and team is amazing. It was good to see you guys. Oh, man. Good to be back again in person. A couple things that I want to mention as we head on in our gathering. Those of you that are watching online, great to see you guys today. If you're a guest around here, our app, everything is pretty much digital these days. So right on the app is where you can check a box saying you're a guest, and you can just fill out the name and email, and it just lets us know that you're new, and we can send you out an email and just kind of give you a little more information about Meadow Heights Church. Also, with our giving, obviously we don't pass any paper around here right now. So the giving at the back of the room, you can fill out an envelope if that's the way you like to give. Many of you guys give online. And I just want to say again, thank you so much for your generosity over these last several months especially. And it just means a lot to us here at Meadow Heights Church to be able to move forward in the mission. And you guys are generous, and we're grateful for that. And then when it comes to a couple things on the schedule, we have Cause Without a Concert coming up. So today is the first day that we can actually bring in cause items. So there's a place out in the Welcome Center, I think, to drop those off each week. And if you want to know what it is that you need to bring in on our app, you can go there. There's a list, Cause Without a Concert icon. Click on that. The whole list is there. And that concert weekend is usually the weekend of July 4th. Guess what day July 4th falls on? A Saturday. So we're not going to have a Saturday night gathering that week. We'll just have a Sunday morning gathering at 9 and then one at 11 at Farmington that week. So before we jump in, last week Brian closed the gathering with blessed stories. I thought it'd be fun. We'll kind of open our time with some blessed stories. And I just want to remind us what bless is about. It's definitely more than just doing something good for somebody, right? This truly is like a way of being in the world. That's what bless is. It's a way of being a missionary every day, wherever you are, wherever you work, live, learn, or play, right? So it's about embodying these practices of BLESS. And over time, we just become different people, missional people in the world. So we're going to take a few minutes, and we're just going to go ahead and share some blessed stories. Can we do that? And by the way, our blessed stories you're not being recorded right now. So the gathering is being recorded, but somehow we're going to hit stop or edit or something. And that way you don't have to feel so vulnerable like, how many people's hearing this story? This is a family moment, okay? So we're going to start with some blessed stories. And what I love about these is they can be, so I didn't discount saying it's not blessing somebody in an easy way. I said it's not just that. It's more than that. These things kind of work together over time. So we're going to take some time each week and share blessed stories, okay?
can see, this man has suffered horrible abuse. No one shall pass without a valid excuse.
Oh, I gotta pick up my son from school.
Pick up your son, so you say. What sort of school lets out in the middle of the day?
Bray Elementary. It's kindergarten. It's only a half day.
Why can't he walk? It is beautiful outside. Why do you persist? You must give him a ride.
Well, he's a little too young to walk home by himself. I mean, it's just right here.
Look, buddy, do the guy a favor. He's been beaten and robbed and left for dead. I can't spare a couple of minutes for your fellow man?
I'd like to help him out, but I have to be on time for my son. I mean, if I'm late, he's gonna be scared. Can I just go? I need to go.
Fine, fine. You may pass. You may pass. Your excuse has saved you and your donkey. Stop! As you can see, this man has suffered horrible abuse. No one shall pass without a valid excuse.
Well, I have an appointment.
Oh, an appointment. That's what you say. Do you think you could be more vague or cliché?
I have an appointment, and it's all the way at the other side of the town.
Other side of town. Funny, you see, because this is a very small town. Is your appointment on block 2 or block 3?
It's at my doctor's office, Dr. Gildy. He's the doctor. Can I please have a pass just this time?
Lady, the guy's been laying here all day. Do you not think you could put aside a couple of minutes to help your fellow man?
I'm sorry. I just don't have the time.
All right. You may pass. You may pass. Your excuse has saved you and your donkey. Stop! As you can see, this man has suffered horrible abuse. None shall pass without a valid excuse. What is your excuse?
Well, I don't have an excuse.
Of course you do. It's easy. Something along the lines of, I'm busy.
But I'm not busy.
Look, buddy, that's not how this works. You come up, you have an excuse, I let you pass. It's simple.
Well, what would be a good excuse?
I'm busy. I've got a thing. I have to pee. Something.
Well, I'm sorry. I just don't have any kind of good excuse for not stopping to help this man out.
All right. You may not pass. Just pull over here and get off your donkey.
So how long has this man been lying here?
Pretty much all day.
Did you see who did this to him?
Nope.
And so why didn't you just help him?
I'm late. I've got a thing. Need to pee. I have no skill for helping particularly wounded. I'm allergic to donkeys, and there was a dream. I had a dream, donkeys everywhere, very frightening. I'd give you a hand, I would. You seem to have it covered. Please don't speak of this. I have a reputation.
Oh, goodness. Well, obviously, as you can see, we are in this series called Get Off Your Donkey. And it's based on one of the most famous stories that Jesus told, which is the story of the Good Samaritan. Now, before we jump in, I need to own something, and it's a problem that I have. And some of you know I have this problem. And the problem is called finding deals, okay? There are deals out there, and somebody needs to find them. And I usually just step up and take one for the team, and I go out and I find deals, like Facebook Marketplace, or what used to be my go-to was Craigslist. Anybody ever heard of Craigslist? Some of you are going, why does he have a list? And my house is full of things from Craigslist, right? Or Facebook Market. I mean, everything we in there, we bought there. And Craigslist, in its prime, was this magical place. You can go and you can find anything and get the best deals. All kinds of stuff's out there. You just got to dig and search. It's like a virtual garage sale. But on Craigslist, there's also other things. You can buy stuff, but you can also go out there. There's want ads. There's all kinds of things on there. And there's one little icon on there called Missed Connections. There's a lot of stuff on Craigslist you may not want to click on. But there's one called Missed Connections. And the idea behind this is people could go in there if they met somebody and for some reason they weren't able to get their contact information, they can go on Craigslist and say, hey, in Missed Connections, I'm trying to find so-and-so, and maybe that other person's looking for them, and then they get connected back again, right? So I found a couple of my favorite misconnection quotes on Craigslist. These are real, okay? This one's headed, eyes met during a bank robbery. This is fun as a former banker. It says, I know this is a long shot, but I was behind you in the line when the robbers came in and shouted, hit the floor. You, tall, lovely, earmuffs, holding some kind of automotive tool. Me, tall, yellow jacket, fresh haircut. Our eyes met under the desk. Isn't that awesome? You got to give him some credit for trying to make something good out of a bank robbery. And this one's my favorite of all time, really. It says, so we met at this bar that's now a Starbucks. It said, we had a great conversation, and you gave me your number. I really meant to call, but I got in some serious drama that night. Long story short, I caught a Class A felony and got 25 years. I did 19, then got out on good behavior. I thought I'd look you up. I guess your number's changed. Sorry for the delay. Isn't that awesome? A 19-year delay in prison? Oh, man. You can't make this stuff up. Sometimes reality, truth, is stranger than fiction. So these are funny, these misconnections. But the reality is missed opportunities do kind of leave us in this place of either wondering or sometimes driving us crazy of like this idea of what did I miss out on? You ever missed out on an opportunity and you thought, I wonder what would have been, what could have been? Now, this story of the Good Samaritan, familiar story, but what we're doing each week, we're trying to dig into it and go, there's probably something we're not quite seeing like we've seen before. And this is a great story, but it's also a story, you may not have known, it's a story of missed opportunities. So Jesus told this story, and he tells it saying the response to this question of how do I inherit eternal life? How does that happen? And as Brian talked about last night, the answer to that question, it's not really about going to heaven when I die. That's a great question that you need to figure out. But this answer is more about the answer of getting off your donkey is way more about this idea of living a blessed life. How do I serve other people? How do I live truly the God kind of life that's deep in meaning and opportunity and giving back and blessing others? So today, I want to focus on those other two guys in the story. And these two folks missed this God kind of life opportunity to live with meaning and purpose and fulfillment. So here's what Jesus says. He tells this story. He said, a man was going down the road from Jerusalem to Jericho. When he was attacked by robbers, they stripped him of his clothes, beat him, and went away, leaving him half dead. So in those days, okay, there was this particular stretch of road, and this is the stretch of road this guy's on. It was a dangerous stretch of road. This is where he got beaten. Robbers attacked him, and he was left there half dead. And the Samaritan guy, he notices him, and he decides to get off his donkey. He goes and helps him, sets him up, takes care of him, and from that day on, he's known as the Good Samaritan, right? So for the sake of the conversation, we know who the Samaritan is. I want to look at these other two guys. They're important in this story, and here's what happened. It said a priest happened to be going down the same road, and when he saw the man, he passed on the other side. So too a Levite, when he came to the place, saw him and passed on the other side. So these two guys teach us something in this story that is so obvious, but I think it has to be said today because it's so important. And here's what it is. I can't just pass by and get off my donkey. I mean, that's obvious, right? These two things are mutually exclusive. We can't just pass by and get off our donkey and help, which leads us to the question that we're talking about all 5 weeks of this series is, will I get off my donkey? Because we're left with a choice. Will we get off our donkey? So let's look at these two guys. Let's ask the question. Obviously, they passed by and didn't get off their donkey. So why? You ever wondered that? Like, why didn't those guys get off their donkey? We look at the Samaritan, but why didn't these guys do it? Well, they were first a priest and a Levite, which means in Jesus' culture, these are professional religious guys. So these two professional religious guys don't get off and help. And what we usually do when we hear this story is we want to throw them under the bus, like, oh my gosh, there we go. More guys that they talk the talk, but they can't walk the walk. And then we just want to throw them under the bus, right? But I think a lot's going on here, more than what we want to actually own. Because here's the reality of the story. One of the reasons they probably didn't stop is, number one, it was risky. Like, not just the risky, like I might get run over, like Greg's story earlier. Like, this is risky. Have you ever been in a bad part of town where there's like a lot of crime that takes place, and you drive through that town and you roll your windows up, and you kind of get fearful, and you make sure your doors are locked when you pull up to a stoplight? And imagine if you saw somebody in need, and then all of a sudden you're faced with the decision, do I get out and go help them? Like, man, that's risky. I might get mugged or worse if I get out and do that. So these guys were facing like a real risky situation. They go to help in a situation like that. Somebody could be hiding behind the bush. This could be an ambush. This might be a setup. It was risky. Plus, on top of that, they're two professional guys in this religious culture. And in this religious culture, there were a lot of things about making sure that you were ritually clean, spiritually clean. And one of the things that would make you unclean is touching somebody who's dead or getting human blood on you. So if they went to help, they could risk this idea that now they're unclean and they've got a job to do. They're going to do these other spiritual things, and now they can't actually do them because now they've touched somebody and now they're unclean. Or maybe we could just give them the benefit of the doubt and they would just say maybe they were busy. They just had to get home. It's like, man, it's like 5 o'clock. I'm running late. I just got to get somewhere, and maybe they just thought the guy was a goner anyway. The Bible doesn't say exactly why they passed by. We just know that they passed by. And I remember telling my boys this story a few months back, and they were just kind of like, these guys didn't help? Like, they were just kind of shocked about it. And I remember myself as a kid hearing that story and thinking these guys were like jerks. Like, why would they not help? What a couple of losers, you know? And then I think we get older and we're tempted to add a layer of cynicism onto our reaction because now we realize they're the religious establishment. These are the pastors. You can't trust those guys. They're up to no good. See, that's why I don't go to church. That's why I'm not part of anybody that's a Christ follower, because of that stuff. And we add this thing on it, and it seems like it's just easy to beat up on these guys. But I think we could probably lean in and say they had their reasons why they passed by, right? Just like we saw in that video. Like, we got to have an excuse. We got reasons why we just move on by, why we pass by and we don't get off our donkeys. And as I think about these guys, I kind of relate to them at times. Not because I'm a Levite or because I work for a church, but I think sometimes I relate to them because there's a lot of need, right? Like, how many needs do we pass by on a regular basis? There's just so much need in the world, and I've got a lot of reasons too. Like, my donkey and my schedule they're pretty tight. Like, I've got a lot of stuff to do. And you know what I do sometimes? Sometimes I actually think of it this way, like, I look at my schedule and it's so packed full of stuff that I'm doing for the church. Sometimes I kind of go, all this is kind of doing stuff for God, and I'm sometimes tempted just to pass on by because I've got something else I'm doing that's actually for God too. And I just want to pass on by the need. Here's the reality though. This is one thing that we need to think of it this way. We're not just passing by a need, we're passing by an opportunity, okay? It's not just a need, it's an opportunity to be a neighbor. Remember that question Brian posed a couple weeks ago? He said, whose neighbor are you? And that's the real question. We're passing by an opportunity. And I think here's another thing that comes into play when it comes to this idea of why we would pass somebody by. So not just these guys, but like for us, I think what we struggle with at times is if I lean in and help somebody, if I get off my donkey and try to bless somebody in my community or where I work or where I go to school or whatever this might be, what if it gets complicated? Like, what if they want something and start expecting something from me? Like, what if they want to be my friend? I ain't got time for that. I got enough friends. I don't need no more friends. I don't want people coming to my door and wanting stuff. Do you ever think about that? Where you're like, man, I could get engaged, but gosh, what's this going to turn into? And I think you can start feeling overwhelmed. And like I mentioned earlier, there's just so much need out there, so many hurt, so many problems. But I think if we look at these two guys, and rather than just throwing them under the bus because they're religious boneheads, and really start going, I wonder why they passed by, I think all of us in here could probably go, Man, I think I kind of relate to those guys too, because I think I probably just passed by way too many times. And I just see all the times that I'm the Good Samaritan and be like, man, look at the ways I've helped, but we go by opportunity after opportunity after opportunity. And I think if we can say that we relate to these guys a little more than what we would like to admit, then we have to agree that we've probably missed a lot of opportunities, right? Not just needs, not like we've just missed some needs, but we've missed some real opportunities to help and to connect and be a neighbor. So we started off with this Craigslist, missed opportunities. I wonder what it would look like in our lives to think about what are some of the missed opportunities. Can you imagine some of the Craigslist posts? Might be something like this. Child looking for healthy male role model who was too busy today to play with me on Wednesday. I think you'd have found joy in spending a few minutes that day. I think I would have gained a few more notches in my sense of self-worth through your attention. By the way, the Legos will be out at the same place on Thursday if you're interested. Or maybe homeless man looking for the guy who made eye contact with me near Highway 67. If you would have held that gaze a second longer, I think you would have seen more in my eyes than just a bum. I think we could have been friends. I won't bite, I promise. I think we could teach each other a thing or two. Stop by tomorrow if you read this post. Or maybe this is a woman who sits 2 cubicles down from you at the office, and man, I know it might seem silly posting this on Craigslist. We're only 10 feet apart, 40 hours a week, but it seems like we just keep missing a connection. I overheard you talking about your church before, and I'm kind of interested me, but I'm not making any promises, but you could experience the joy of helping someone find their way back to God if you would just slow down enough for me to ask you a few questions. I'm free for lunch next Tuesday if you read this. I know these are hypothetical, okay? And please don't hear me wrong. This is what I'm not trying to do, is guilt everybody in here. Like, oh man, here it goes. I'm not trying to guilt you or make you feel bad, or when you walk out of here to go, oh, I'm a terrible person because I'm not getting off my donkey. That's not what I'm trying to do. Here's the point. Every single day, we have opportunities to bless someone else in our world. Every day, they're there to bless someone, to pray with someone, to be with someone, to listen to someone, to eat with someone, to serve with someone, to share our story with someone, to bring hope and love and comfort. What this world needs more than anything, every single day, we're having opportunities. And we can't just pass by and get off our donkeys. We can't do both. What does that look like then? If we're all sitting here going, you know what, I actually do kind of put myself more with the Levite and the priest, and golly, I've missed all kinds of opportunities, and wow, when you were reading what those posts could be, I was thinking a lot of people that are like, what do I do different? Here's what I think we have to do if we're going to truly get off our donkeys. This is something we are so bad at, okay? We are so bad at this in our culture. We have to practice the art of noticing. Say notice. Notice. We have to notice. We are so bad at this because we're so busy and we're on the go, and it's so hard for us to slow down, pump the brakes, pull the reins on the donkey, slow it down so we can actually notice when an opportunity is in front of us. Okay? So this week, we have to practice the art of noticing. I want you to practice the art of noticing one place this week or one person that you tend to just pass on by. And when I even say that, some of you are going, I know exactly who it is, or I know exactly what place it is. Others, your donkey's moving so fast, you have no idea. You're going to have to slow down and practice the art of noticing. And when you notice it for what it is, an opportunity to get off your donkey and to bless someone else. It doesn't mean it's not going to be hard. Doesn't mean it's not going to be uncomfortable. Doesn't mean it's not going to cost you something. It might be all three of those things, but I promise you, when you slow down and you notice it for what it is, an opportunity, you are going to be so glad that you got off your donkey and that you helped, because we all have excuses and they seem legitimate. but we can't pass by and get off our donkey. God's going to give us opportunity after opportunity every single day if we'll slow down and notice him. I want to tell you a story as we close. I love this story. It's a story of a guy named Bill, and this is Bill's part of the story that he shares. He said, my mother and I were walking down the street on the block where we lived, just north of St. Petersburg. It was near the Welcome Inn on Park Boulevard, where she worked as a barmaid, and we stopped and sat down on the corner culvert that was built over a little drainage ditch. And she was very quiet that day, and after a few minutes, she stood up and she said, I can't do this anymore. You wait here. And I did exactly what my mom said. I sat there waiting for her to return. The sun went down, and she still wasn't back. For 3 days, I sat in the Florida sun on the concrete culvert, and I didn't know where to turn. And if I had known how to pray, I would have done it. But prayer had no place in our home. All I could do was sit there, try to be brave, choke back the tears that would begin to fill up my eyes. 3 days. This is a true story. Can you imagine that? Sitting there for 3 days, not knowing what to do as a young kid. But then a guy by the name of Dave Rudinis, a mechanic, noticed him sitting there. Like that? He noticed him. You know what he did? He went over and he sat down and he listened to Bill's story. And he had compassion. Turns out the man was a Christ follower. So what Dave does, Dave took Bill in, gave him a place to stay, paid for him to go to summer camp, and it was at that camp that Bill Wilson heard the words that changed his life. Jesus loves you, and so do I. And that summer, Bill made a commitment to follow Jesus. It changed his life forever. And in 1979, Bill moved to one of the poorest neighborhoods in Brooklyn. He took an old donated station wagon, drove it around, picking up kids and taking them to Sunday school. He said every time he picked up a kid, he would look the kid in the eyes and he would say, Jesus loves you, and so do I. And then the station wagon was replaced by a bus. And then since then, listen to this, he's been beaten, stabbed, shot, robbed, and hospitalized. And today, Bill Wilson heads up a ministry called Metro World Child. And he still drives one of the buses, a fleet of buses, that picks up and loves on 20,000 kids from under-resourced neighborhoods every week. And what started out with that turned into and replicated all over the cities all over America. And I'm told that when every bus driver picks up a kid and the kid comes running to the bus and the doors open up, every bus driver says, Jesus loves you, and so do I. And if you'd ask Bill Wilson why he drives a bus and picks up kids he doesn't know, he says, I'm not picking up kids I don't know. I'm picking up me. Isn't that a great story? Now, I'm not encouraging you to go out of here and be Bill Wilson. If that happens, that's awesome. That's great. I'm encouraging you to walk out of here and be the next Dave Rudinis, who noticed a young boy, walked over and listened to his story, and changed the course of his future in thousands of kids' lives. Can you imagine being Dave Rudinis today? Like, how does he feel? Like, I just stopped and listened to his story and loved on a kid, and oh my gosh, I had no idea what would happen. Talk about what if. What if I hadn't stopped? What if he had missed that opportunity? What difference did that make in Bill's life? And I just wonder, what opportunities are we missing? We have to stop, notice, get off of our donkeys, and take the opportunity to bless someone else. Now, often we come in here, we hear a great message. I'm saying that, for me, it's a good one. Hear a great message, and we can just get on our respective donkeys and walk out of here, and we can continue to let the opportunities pass by. And if that's where you've been so far, that's where you've been so far. But today can be a different day. Because now we can walk out of here and go, what would that look like for me to be a Dave Rudinis on a daily basis? How do I put that into my life? And hopefully this week we'll walk out of here and we'll slow down and we'll notice what we're passing by, see it for what it is, an opportunity to love on someone else and to continue to help build the kingdom right here on this earth. Can we do that? Let's do that. Let me pray before we go. Father, thank you for this book that we have and all these incredible stories that you tell, Lord, and real life stories that are in here and parables that you share, and how it continues to speak to us thousands of years later, Lord. How we can take a story that we feel like we know so well and focus on the Good Samaritan part and sometimes overlook other parts of the story. God, help us, Lord, as we move throughout this week. Help us slow down. Help us to practice the art of noticing. And when we begin to notice things, Lord, oh my goodness, the way we see you showing up and working and the opportunities that are in front of us. God, help us put that on the forefront of our hearts this week, Lord. You're good. We love you. We ask this in your name. Everybody said? Amen. Amen. Well, man, it's awesome to get an opportunity to be here live and in person and see all your great faces. And we'll come back here and do it next week, all right? Thanks.